welcome back to another episode of Who's On First. I'm your host, Dwayne.
And I'm Jason.
And before we start, please, I'm going to change it up. Please give us a 5-star review on all the DSPs that we're on. So Apple, give us a review. Spotify, if they do reviews, I have no idea. I'm not on Spotify. Google Podcasts, all the DSPs. But of course, also please go to youtube.com/Who's On First. Give us a subscribe there. Also, like the videos, comment, all that cool stuff. We like talking baseball with you guys. And of course, follow us on TikTok, Who's On First _. But let's get to something that is very interesting that is being brought up with the pitch clock from a very, I would guess, a unlikely person. But Philadelphia Phillies pitcher Matt Strahm is bringing up some interesting points about the pitch clock and what it's actually doing to beer sales and the selling of alcohol at stadiums. So I'm just gonna. This got so big. This is actually being covered by People. So this is from People.com. It says Phillies pitcher slams MLB teams for extending beer sales to the 8th inning. Let me just go. Phillies pitcher Matt Strahm isn't a fan of the recent trend of ballparks extending the clock on their beer sales. On the Thursday podcast of Baseball Isn't Boring. So that's weird. I'm assuming the podcast drops every Thursday. But it's called Baseball Isn't Boring. The starting pitcher reasoned that the move done in response to the shorter length of baseball games this season is actually a dangerous trend. So here's the exact quote. The reason we stopped selling alcohol on the 7th before it was to give our fans time to sober up and drive home. Correct? Strahm said. So now with a faster paced game and me just being a man of common sense, if the game is going to finish quicker, would we not move the beer sales back to the 6th inning to give our fans time to sober up and drive home? He added, instead, we're going to the 8th, and now you're putting our fans and family at risk driving home with people who have just drank beers 22 minutes ago. 4 Major League Baseball teams have already extended the times of beer sales: the Texas Rangers, Minnesota Twins, Milwaukee Brewers, and the Arizona Diamondbacks. But Strahm elaborated that he's not surprised about the development. When you mess with billionaires' dollars, they find a way to make their dollars back. My thing is, when you're looking at the safety of our fans, that's probably not the smartest decision to extend it into the 8th. So, Jason, what do you think about Phillies pitcher Matt Strahm putting his foot down on beer sales at the stadium into the 8th?
So I was with him. I'm with him, but until that last comment when he talks about billionaires. Well, if you got to look at it this way, he's asking for millions when he gets his contract, correct? So
Right.
the billionaires are just trying to make their money to pay these millionaires. So that kind of turned me off on it. But I do agree with them. It is and that's something that I thought about too once this pitch clock, because it is a danger to the game is going faster, then you do have someone with the beer that
Right.
drank the beer. But, however, I also look at it this way too. If the game's ending earlier, the fans aren't drinking as much as they were drinking before,
Right.
because if the game's lasting, we'll say 1 inning, he alluded to it being like 22 minutes between from the 8th until the end of the game. So if
Right.
an inning is lasting 11 minutes per inning, 2 innings, 22, if each inning's lasting 11 minutes, before the games, some innings were lasting 30 minutes. So
Mm-hmm.
how many fans were drinking multiple beers in an inning? So I get what he's saying, that and I also agree. I do think that the if you are going to have a faster game, then you do need to stop selling alcohol earlier to combat to let people have that time to sober up. Um, what I like I said, what I don't agree with is if the game's ending faster, I don't feel like people are going to drink more beer. I feel like they're just drinking the same amount they were drinking to that time, anyways. You mentioned you were at the Dodger game yesterday when we were
Mm-hmm.
talking before we started, and by the 7th inning, you said it was like 8:40 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So normally by the 8:40 at normal baseball games, that'd be like the 5th inning. So
Right.
people are still drinking up another 2 innings. So if the game's ending in 20, 30 minutes later, opposed from the game ending in an hour to an hour and a half later, wouldn't the alcohol consumption still be kind of the same? So that's where I feel like, yeah, I understand where he's coming at. I think we just need more studies done on it to really give really good like breakdown on it, but
Right.
I do understand where he's coming from and trying to be responsible, and that's I will commend that. So I do like I said, I do agree where he's coming from with that, but I also would like to see studies based off of where people were drinking at before at this time, how many beers they were in when the game ends now to where they were before. Because if the game's ending faster, I know me, I kind of will go hard the first inning on a beer. I may go down like get two beers quick in, and then
Taper
I
off.
kind of like go slower throughout the game. So I want to know, are people pounding more at the beginning of the game to, oh, I have to make up my beer account, or are they just still doing what they're doing? And now that it just happens, hey, we were at the fifth inning before at 8:40, and now we're at the eighth inning at 8:40. Let's stop the beer sales. So there's some I need the studies about it, but I do agree where he's coming at and where he is trying to he's making his comment and trying to look out for the fans. So I will give that a thumbs up, siding with him, but like I said, I am not 100% on board. I still want to see all the studies.
I also agree. I think this is number one. I think this is pretty ballsy by Matt Strom, just because, you're essentially calling out the owners. And at that point, I mean, they sign your paychecks. They're the ones that are paying you, like you said, the millions that you're asking for as a starting pitcher. And again, I have no idea how much money Matt Strom is making. So if someone's gonna say, "Oh, he's still on his rookie deal and whatever," I don't care.
He's
But
still making a lot more than the average fan that's buying those beers.
exactly. So, but the biggest takeaway from this, I would say, is that I think he's absolutely right in the sense of when it comes to if you are extending beer sales into the eighth, the idea that because you talked about the conversation that we had off air, but yeah, we were in the eighth and it was like eight, like I said, 8:40, and the game started at 6:10 yesterday. So, Dodger Stadium, I believe beer sales stopped in the seventh. So I didn't really in my section there, I didn't see a lot of alcohol. So but it doesn't mean that people didn't go up to the concession stand and just drink their beer there and then come back down, right? However, I will say that with Dodger Stadium getting the reputation Dodger Stadium has, um, I'm definitely on board with that because number one, we've lived through some situations. If you've been to a Dodger game, look,
You just if you've been to a Dodger game, we do not need to say anything else.
yeah, it's like you know what happens there for the most part. Also, we were leaving the stadium last night. There was apparently a fight in the bathroom, but um, number one, I've always felt the need that they should honestly like and this. Of course, I don't drink, so when people are probably gonna get mad and attack me and how dare you, but I've always been on the side of like why do we serve alcohol at sporting events? Just because like we've seen the ramifications of these situations happen in like really bad instances. We've gone to the extreme of the malice in the palace that got started by a beer, right? And a fan being drunk, and that caused all that chaos to the other extreme of Nick Aidenhart. Nick Aidenhart, what his first start, pitches the game of his life, goes home and dies.
On his way home, yeah.
Yeah, by what, a drunk driver, right?
Yep.
And so we've seen both extremes of that, and I honestly I don't understand why we do it at sporting events, but I understand it's a business. You're partnering with these beer companies and things like that,
Brands.
right? So yeah, the beer brand. So I totally understand it, but I think the big thing about this that also stands out is he's also calling out ownership, and I think people like you they can have the thought like, okay, you're a millionaire calling out a billionaire, like really. But I also look at it like by him saying like I understand it because billionaires are going to try to find a way to make their money. I feel like if you are someone who is looking at his comments and saying like, "Oh yeah, I agree." Now think about your team and how your team is constructed. If you are if you're the let me think of
Oakland
one.
A's.
Yeah. If you're the Oakland A's and your team ends up pushing alcohol sales back to the eighth, what the hell for? We don't even spend any money.
Yeah.
Like again, I think a big thing when it comes to baseball, and I feel like this happens for baseball especially because baseball doesn't have a salary cap, right? But you hear so many of these owners cry that they're poor. Oh, we don't do this. We don't sell enough of this. We don't make enough money to be able to go get the top, free agents out there and everything like that. But honestly, if you really just look by team, like almost all these teams are owned by billionaires, and they openly choose just not to spend money.